All right, everyone, roll initiative again.
Oh boy.
Oh,
What was it plus
That's like a
again?
quick way of saying this.
What was it plus again?
3d6 plus whatever your dexterity is.
That was a
Oh, I
dexterity.
forgot they had dexterity last time.
Yeah,
I didn't remember
it's
that's
okay.
dexterity.
I should open up my character
You were
sheet.
already in the lead, so it's fine.
Excuse me, I'm going to open up my character sheet real quickly.
So we got Shali at 7, David at 8, Logan at 11, and I'm still waiting on Ray. Ray to roll.
I can't remember what my dexterity is.
It should be on your character sheet, right?
I
Okay,
have a
that is
character
open.
sheet. It's
Yeah, I just now opened it. I can't believe I forgot to open that.
it's 2. Add 2.
Okay, yeah,
Add
okay,
two.
I was right.
Yo, you need the
slash
first
roll.
I forgot the slash.
Slash roll. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I know.
and the 6.
Oh, jeez, that's...
13. Oh, we'll raise at the
Okay.
very first. Is first again.
Well, what do you know? Exact same order.
Ray.
oh well.
Well,
This game's rigged. I didn't want to go first.
All right.
all good.
I apologize. It's going to take some time for me to remember how to pronounce your names. So, Gwynhale.
No, the H is silent because it's French.
Gwynhale.
It's
Sorry.
Gwynhale, yeah.
Gwynhale.
Gwynhale.
Just keep
Gwynhale.
correcting me. Please just keep correcting me until I get it.
So
It's a Breton name actually, which means it's Celtic plus French.
Gotcha.
And I suck at Celtic languages, so I don't know
Gotcha.
why I
Wait,
chose
wait.
such a difficult name.
wait, so you just got that. So he's Gwynale.
Gwynhale.
Gwynale. I'm Leodin. Shali is
Delwyn.
Dalwyn.
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 And David is Maximilian.
Maximilian. Okay.
David's name easiest
Gwynale,
to remember.
Leodin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crap, what was Shali? Hang on, I'm gonna make a little list of this actually. So, hang on, notepad. So I'm just gonna say, I'll
Yeah,
just
you can
type
type.
how I'll
Most people
pronounce it.
are gonna end up calling Delwyn L anyway, so...
L.
Gwynale.
Okay, so Dalwyn.
Oh great, you completely changed my image of your character with that one name.
I know, because now you're thinking of Death Note, aren't you?
No!
By the
That's what I was
way-
thinking.
It was either Del or Win or L, and I wasn't gonna go Win because that makes me think of Dragon Age Origins.
I know.
By the way,
And
David.
I would love to use Win myself for my character because his name is Gwynale, but I was like, Win is a good nickname for him. He's like, no.
No, that won't work.
All of his names are really feminine. There is Gwen, Win, and if you go with his middle name, which is Bellamy, is Belle.
Yeah.
So
Yes, own up to it.
By the way, David, when you gave back the money to Plimm, I just had a flash of at the end of the session, like in at the end of Walking Dead, there's like you and 30% of players chose to give the money back.
I was thinking of like, I was thinking of the words like, Buddy will remember this.
Yes, Plimm will remember this.
Remember this.
Yeah.
I don't need your help, Plimm.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help that I made my nickname Lee, since I knew that Leodin would be weird for people at times.
Yes.
Nail.
So,
Oh, well.
so Gwynale, we're back at the circle.
I think I got a new nickname from actually Nail.
Nil.
Neil.
Nil.
Like Nail.
Like Nil.
Actually, that kind of
Alright.
sounds like a Swedish name actually. I can't.
Well,
Neil.
that's
Neil. I can't. Ugh, suck it.
I like Neil though. It's like Neil, but Neil.
Nail.
Neil.
Nil.
Neil. Little.
So,
Who wants a
Neil,
Neil?
you are at the Circle of Magi still. It is approximately 3 weeks from last we saw you. All of the Circle of Magi have been gathered at the there's like a hall where normally it's a meeting place where usually that's where the first Enchanter addresses the congregation as a whole. Today, however, is not a day of any sort of joy or of any sort of specific business.
Yay, my specialty, misery.
All of the mages are gathered. There are banners that are being hung up in black. Everyone in the congregation is dressed in black, and there's a sort of like a a table on the side with pictures of Senior Enchanter Eveline. During the 3 weeks' time, her condition got worse. She had contracted the pox, and her condition got worse and worse and worse until finally she passed away a couple days ago. So you're all at her funeral right now. The first Enchanter is leading the eulogy, and there's a very morose feel in the air, obviously. Senior Enchanter Eveline was very well loved. The first Enchanter says she always gave so much of herself without asking for anything in return, and she will be greatly missed. She was a huge asset to the circle, and her spirit touched us all. Near the end of your eulogy, she asks if anyone in the congregation would like to say anything. People look around.
My character just is just fixating on whatever's below him and in front of him, and he's kind of squeezing his hand a little bit.
Jody, Jody, by the way, is sitting right next to you, and she kind of give your hand a squeeze as well, and she looks towards you in your direction with a handkerchief, dabbing her eyes. There are a few mages who raise their hands, and the Enchanter welcomes them up. They all, one by one, start giving their own experiences, sharing some of the memories that they shared with Senior Enchanter Eveline. While they're waiting for the next person to go up, Jody leans in and whispers to you, "You are really close to her, probably the closest of any of us. Do you not want to say anything?"
Of course I want to say something, Jody. But what would people hear of me anyways?
She frowns when you say that, and she says, "I know that you're scared, and I know that you prefer keeping a low profile." She says, "But don't you think you're gonna regret it if you don't say anything now? This is probably going to be your last chance."
I hate when you're this right.
She sort of grins a little bit and says, "I would think you'd be used to it by now."
Jody.
The Chanter says, "Is there anyone else who would like to say anything about
My character stands.
Your character stands, and several people turn towards you. There are Templars who are lining along the side of the hall, and all eyes turn to you as you rise up. And the Senior Enchanter asks you to come forward and take your spot at the pedestal. The first Enchanter, excuse me. As you stand there, Jody gives you a very supporting look. Go ahead. Just say what's in your heart. Just say what you feel.
It has been 4 years since I have come to the tower. I came here older than most that come here. I came from roots that have made some of you jealous or angry when I just was sad to be here myself. I too was forced to come here. But then, many of you found friends and family. People who embraced you here, even though they did not share your blood. For me, one of the few people who truly embraced me here with Evelyn. Even when things became worse for me, when people wish to try to take events, take my freedom away again by not just sending me to the tower, but turning me to... Looks at a tranquil, you know. She was there for me. She stood up. She argues for me and helped me grow. Gave me a chance. And I went through my heroin. And I came out. Nobody else would have been so brave. No one else would have been so kind. She was a spirit healer. But she was so much more than that. Because she could touch and heal more than just your body. She could heal your soul.
There are several mages who nod in agreement along the congregation.
And the fact that she has managed to unite so many people. So much of us loved her. So much of us cared for her. Maybe sometimes you did not do so good with her instructions, but even then she was always so kind. You could not help but love her back. This shows that this tower always had the potential to be like the family that the others had, and the only regret I have is that I did not get to do what she wished and be closer to everyone here. I kept to myself. When I came here, when I saw that you wanted no part of me. But if I cannot do that before she passed, I will do better now for her. I think we should all try to keep her fineness and her ideals alive, and be kinder, closer, and more of a family, because here in the circle, we are all we have. For her. Thank you.
The room remains silent as you get off of the precipice, and several of the mages are dabbing their eyes. You hear sniffles, but as you go down, several of them try to make eye contact with you, and in a way of saying thank you for what you said. The rest of the ceremony continues, and it's, of course, probably one of the worst days of your life, since Senior Enchanter Evelyn was your mentor, and she meant a lot to you and a lot to everyone. And you know that the circle will just never be the same without her. But that's not the only thing that's bothering you. The other thing that's bothering you is that her symptoms, the pox that she was talking about, seem very familiar to the same illness that took your own brother. I don't know however many years ago that was, but that has really made you very disturbed. A week passes, and Jody knocks on your door in your quarters. It's fairly late at night. It's almost lights out, but Jody's knocking on your door.
Jody, is that you?
Neil, she says, the first enchanter, she said she wanted to speak with you in her office before you go to bed.
Oh, see? Oof. Right. I guess I will get ready to do that real quickly. Do you know what they want?
I have no idea. It sounded like it's something really important, though. Otherwise, why would she want to talk to you now, just before it's time for us to go to bed?
Yeah. Right.
He
puts back some clothes on him, because I imagine he was in night clothes. So
you prepare yourself, and then you make your way over to the Senior Enchanter's office. there with her, standing by her, is the Knight Captain of the Templar, as well as Dominic Van Ries. Dominic Van Ries has a very uncomfortable smirk on his face as you enter into the office. The senior enchanter, she looks very troubled, as if she doesn't feel comfortable having you in her office, not because of you personally, but probably because of what she's about to say. Senior enchanter says, "Neil, thank you for coming so late. Please, have a seat, my child."
Thank you, ma'am.
The senior enchanter says, Neil, I apologize for bringing you up here in my presence so soon after the passing of our dear senior enchanter. But I'm afraid that under the circumstances, I cannot delay this any longer. She says, "Neil, I need you to be very truthful for me. It's very important." She pauses for a moment as if she's trying to pick her words very carefully. "Neil, are you still hearing the whispers, the voices?" She looks at you straight in the eye when she asks you that.
I am hearing whispers, but I cannot say that they are the whispers from before.
You see, Dominic says as he turns over to the Knight Captain. He doesn't deny them. He definitely does have a demon inside of him. The senior enchanter holds up her hand and says, "We do not know if it is necessarily a demon. We do not know if it is necessarily something that actually exists."
Aiden was not a demon, so perhaps it is someone, or maybe it even is Aiden. I'm sorry.
Dominic
I spoke at the time.
Dominic snorts, and the Knight Captain pulls out a book. You have seen this book before. This is a journal that you've seen Senior Enchanter Eveline keep. She writes her notes, her research notes in it. The Knight Captain starts opening the book and fumbles through some pages, and he says, "We have here an entry from Senior Enchanter Eveline, one of the last entries that she made before she passed. This is her research that she was conducting on
My character looks a little bit perturbed at the fact that the Knight Commander has seemed to have gone through her stuff.
Yeah, do you say anything about that?
No, but he kind of looks and then...
The Knight Captain reads an entry, and he says, "According to this, Senior Enchanter Eveline was trying to determine the source of this pox epidemic. This pox," she says, "does not appear to be anything natural. She was wondering if it is something magical in nature. She's not quite sure yet where the sources lie. She lists several hypotheses to that effect, one of which, however, very interestingly, speaks of demons." At that point, the Dominic says, "I told you it was we should have made him tranquil before, and if you truly wish to keep the interests of the entire circle as a whole,
Best
then
Enchanter, may I speak?
you will take action." The senior enchanter turns to you and says, "Of course, Neil, please.
You?
Go ahead."
I do not want to hear this from you, Dominique. You have... only 1 week after she passed and you already tried to get rid of me. She had assured you before that it was not a demon. Aiden was a bloody spirit. A good one.
The senior enchanter.
And you are insulting her name by making such bold and quick claims. I understand that it can be dangerous.
The senior enchanter turns to Dominique and says, Sir Vanri, speak out of turn one more time, and I will have to ask you to leave. Do you understand?
My character tries to hurt us, hold a smirk.
Vanri's, as she says, do you understand? She's looking at the knight captain, just trying to make sure that, that he realizes that he needs to be on her side on this as well. At that point, Dominique nods and says, yes, first enchanter. The first enchanter turns back to you with desperate eyes, like she's trying to find something to get out of this mess. And she says to you, Neil, what exactly do the whispers say to you? What do they tell you?
They are very confusing. But it is more like they are trying to tell me a message than convince me to do anything.
To do what exactly? The enchanter asks.
One word or one phrase appears the most, and that is, stop this. Don't let this happen.
Stop
And
this.
when they say that, it is a horrific image. Many people are hurt. Blood.
As soon as you say blood, the knight captain raises an eyebrow. The knight captain turns to the senior enchanter as if to ask permission to speak, at which point the senior enchanter nods and says, Senior enchanter, and says, what he speaks of is extremely suspicious. Do you not think so? He says, he speaks of blood. He speaks of him stopping something. We've heard this many times before of other mages who have been deceived into thinking that they are entitled to something and are been told that they must stop the atrocity that supposedly has been impounded on them. I ask that you reconsider my high recommendations to see this matter nipped at the bud. I ask that you please consider tranquility on this young man. The senior still looks very, very uncomfortable by this. And she turns to you and says, Neil, you have to understand that I'm at a very, very difficult position right now. I am appreciative of you of being very truthful to me. But you have to understand, under the circumstances, the circle is at a vulnerable point at this moment.
I understand. And as I said before, I understand the worry. But I am not saying, but what he is saying is simply shoving the words into my mouth. I have not expressed any feeling of entitlement. I have not expressed any sense that I need to do this. I have only expressed what I have heard. For all we know, perhaps this is not even a small spirit. Perhaps it is something else trying to reach out to me. There are things that Evelyn had explained to me before. There are ways of reaching out to people. And if so, and I do not have to contend to this, but I think it bars more investigation instead of nipping this in the bud before we even know anything about it.
The knight command. Go ahead.
What if this is something that can help the tower? What if this is something that by turning me tranquil immediately makes things worse. All I'm saying is give me a chance. That's all Aveline had said. And look how that turned out.
The Knight Commander turns to the Senior Enchanter, and he turns to you, and he says, "You may believe that this spirit, or whatever you call it, is benevolent. You may believe that it's something that might be able to benefit the circle, but that does not necessarily mean that it's true. We know how very enticing demons are, how they rely on tricks, how they rely on making you believe things that are not actually true."
Aveline herself was in commune with the spirit. And I know she told me people had their doubts then too. About her. But because you did not jump to think so immediately, she became one of the best spirit healers in the tower. She became one of the most loved people here. And I wish not to stop this because she would want me to find out more. Back in the day when this first happened, I did not want any more trouble and I almost welcomed it. But now, thanks to her influence, I think I owe it to her. We all owe it to her to look into this. I will lean on your wisdom, but I ask you to lean on the wisdom that was imparted on me by Aveline.
The Senior Enchanter nods, and she says, "Very well. I think I have heard all I need to hear, Neil." She says, "If you please, I have to go speak with the Knight Commander, and we will decide between the two of us what needs to be done. Can I trust that you will go directly to your quarters and remain there, or should I have Sir Dominique escort you?"
No, that will not be necessary.
The Knight Captain turns to the Senior Enchanter and says, "With all due respect, Senior Enchanter, I do believe that under the circumstances, I must insist that Dominique does escort him to his room." The Senior Enchanter says, "We have not determined his fate yet. There's no need to treat him like a prisoner, Knight Commander." She says, "Neil, I would wish for you to please go straight to your room. There will be a Templar assigned there. You understand that if you are not in your quarters within the next 15 minutes, the consequences will be very dire."
Of course. I have never been one for too much dilly-dally anyways.
All right, next. Meanwhile, who's
Oh
next?
my gosh.
Who is
That
next?
was me.
Lucky Jack.
Oh
Lucky Jack.
god, it was exhausting.
Oh my gosh, that eulogy, man, that was fantastic.
Yeah, that speech was
It's
great.
beautiful.
Yes. Lucky Jack. It took several days.
You almost made me cry a couple of times, Angel Arts. God.
I'm a fan of the feels. I like the feels.
Like my chest was tightening and all that. That's just freaking.
I mean, as soon as you mentioned that you had killed Evelyn, I was like, oh god, no.
I wanted to establish your characters before you even meet each other. That was really important to me, and these are the kind of things that I try to do. I try to throw you guys in these situations so it gives the players an idea of what your characters are about, so that when you finally meet, it makes it easier to roleplay. So hopefully that works out very well. Logan, you have finally arrived in Orzammar. You took a ship to cross the river straight to Ferelden, and you trekked your way through the frost, just underneath the Frostback Mountains to Orzammar. Kane had provided you with the necessary papers that you need to gain entrance into Orzammar, as well as papers, signed papers from the noble that he was referring to that gave you permission to use the key on her security box. All very official looking stuff with seals, waxed seals and everything.
Yes.
The trip was very eventful for you because you've never really left the city of Kirkwall, and it just amazes you how large the world actually is. when you go into Orzammar, this is the underground city of the dwarves. It's weird because the world inside is so closed, yet is still so massive. The dwarves around here give you a very odd look because they're not accustomed to people other than dwarves milling about. But they don't. None of them really gives you, a hassle of any sort. But there are amazing architecture down here, because the dwarves are known for their ingenuity when it comes to structures, especially in the stone itself. One of the first things that you notice as you enter into the heart of Orzammar is the giant waterfalls of lava. And it's just a really majestic sight. You try to ask directions to find your way to where the dwarven vaults are. And as you do, you pass by what appears to be a marketplace, and you hear several people peddling their wares, one of whom calls out to you and says, Monsieur, can I interest you into a hat, maybe a nice little bauble of sorts? There's a portly dwarf, probably in his late 20s, early 30s, or mid 30s, and he's gesturing for you to come over to his shop and see his wares.
All right. I decided to take a peek over and inspect.
You take a peek over, and his inventory, to be quite honest, it doesn't really appear to be all that great. They appear to be secondhand, items of various mundane nature, bowls, some things that might look like it's worth it in value, but it looks really old and cracked. There's a woman right now who, however, is looking at a pair of bracers, and she says, "Wait a moment. You thief!" she says as she rolls at him. The dwarf says, "I beg your pardon, ma'am. Do you have a question about one of my merchandise?" She says, "Oh, Bodan, I never thought that you would actually do such a horrid thing. These bracers belong to my brother. You can see his initials right here. These are the same ones." Bodan looked very surprised and shocked and says, "Ma'am, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. I found those bracers out in the deep roads during my expedition. I swear it." And she says, "And you expect me to believe that?" Bodan looked very, very nervous, and he started to perspire, and he looked like he was hoping for a hole to open up underneath him. He wasn't really sure what exactly to say at this point. Does your character do anything, Lucky Jack?
Yes, he would. I would interject a bit to try. I would say, "No, please, here, let's calm down for a second. Is there any damage that has been done to the bracers?"
She says, "I beg your pardon, who are you, stranger?" The woman asks you.
Don't mind me, just a tall man in a short man's world.
Bodan says, No, wait just a moment. The man has a point. He says, I think you will see that the bracers have not been harmed at all. They're a little worse for wear, but I probably can let you have them for half the price, Bodan says. The woman looks utterly insulted. From the look of her face, it looked like she just got smacked.
I say to him now. Now, I'm sure you could let them go for a little bit less than that.
He says, 70% off? He says. The woman says, "How about you give them for me for free, and I will consider not reporting you to the authorities." "Note that I said consider," she said. Bodan says, Well, he takes a handkerchief and he sort of wipes his brow. I suppose I can make that arrangement. Certainly. Here, take one. And look, just so in good faith that you know there's no hard feelings, maybe this old hat would be something you would be interested in for me throwing in for free. The hat's like raggedy and is full of holes, and it's obviously it was like the cheapest thing that he pulled from his wares that he was offering. The
How about a
dwarven
cheese
woman,
knife?
the dwarven woman looks absolutely insulted, and she, from the look on her face, it doesn't even look like it deserved a response. So she turns around with the bracers and just leaves. The dwarf sighs. Oh, thank you, sir, whoever you are. If you weren't here, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, but do please take care. I may not always be here whenever you get yourself into a scrape such as that.
Well, in thanks, perhaps I can offer you this hat, he says. At half the price? He says with a grin.
Freaking hat.
So is the hat just as raggedy as the first one?
It's the same hat.
Right. That's
Yes.
right. You know,
In Origins, one of the things that Bodan says is, "Can I interest you in something? Perhaps a nice hat." Like
right.
he still has the hat 20 years
I was
later.
always fond of the cheese knife.
The cheese knife. But nobody wants to buy the hat for him. Even 20 years later, nobody wants, not even the warden wants to buy the hat from him.
Well, then I probably should continue that, lest a paradox form or something. So I should say,
All
staying
right.
hat. So I shall say, no, thank you, though. If anything, give me your word that you will not steal from anyone steal from that woman again.
I didn't steal. Never mind. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. Let's move on to Maximilian. Max, you
so
are... I think it's Max who's next. Yes.
Yep.
Max,
Yeah.
you are... Today, your assignment is to patrol the market. Plimm has been sent to patrol elsewhere. And so right now you're just walking around. Things seem to be pretty normal. The whole market is bustling. And you hear the sound of children laughing, playing around. That's not uncommon for children to be playing around in the Denera marketplace. One, however, ends up bumping into you. The child bumps into you and he gasps. He looks up at you as if he's in deep trouble, and he freezes, very frightened.
Watch where you're going, boy.
He doesn't say anything, and another child looks a little bit older. They look similar. You can probably deduce that they're brothers. He says, "There you are." He says, "You're gonna get us in trouble." The boy's still staring up at you. He's staring at your face, and he's just he doesn't seem to be paying attention to anything his brother is saying to him, even though he's sort of trying to tug him away from you.
Haven't your mother told you it's rude to stare, boy?
The boy says. At that point, you hear the voice of a woman call out, and she says, Kale, Fergus, Kale and Fergus Cousland, get back here now."
How come?
Kale Cousland, probably around 5 years old or so, I think. Something along those lines. I don't remember. How old is Kale at Origins, by the way?
They're
those
all
of
like
you
in
at
the
home,
20s
Kale-
and 30s.
20 plus something.
I'm sorry? 20
maybe,
plus?
yeah, 30,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know.
Probably
Fine.
somewhere around those lines.
BioWare likes their characters anywhere between 17 and 30 something.
For those of
Yeah.
you at home, Kale Cousland is David's Grey Warden. For those of you who are wondering, it's his Grey Warden.
That was weird.
So the
You
woman
were
catches
talking
up.
to yourself.
The woman catches up to the two boys, and she says, Kale and Fergus, what did I tell you about running off like that when I'm not watching? she looks up at you apologetically, and she says, "I'm so sorry, sir." Says, "But boys will be boys."
No apology needed.
At this point, the woman takes both of her boys by the ears, basically, and they go back into the marketplace. You continue on with your journey through the marketplace. Roll me hearing or perception. Hearing if you're focused in it, or perception. Roll,
Yep.
David.
Here goes nothing.
11. All right. While you're wandering around, you hear some people are in the marketplace are notorious for gossip. And you basically hear that several people have said that the Kuzlins are in Denerim. The Kuzlins are a fairly well-known family, very important in Ferelden. And apparently you overhear that Bryce Kuzlin is visiting His Highness the King for some reason, but you don't hear why he's seeing the king. Then during your patrol, you hear the voice of a merchant call out and say, excuse me, sir, but you forgot to pay for that." You turn around and you see another guardsman. You recognize this man immediately. This is Guardsman Jevin. Those of you who've played Dragon Age 2 know who Jevin is. Guardsman Jevin has an apple in his hand.
First two chapters?
I'm sorry?
Does he show up in the first two? The first
Yes, he does.
two? Because the name sounds familiar, but I can't recall what he looks like.
Jevin is the knight captain. Is the knight captain in Dragon Age 2 of the guard. Jevin has an apple in his hand, and he bites into it, turns around, faces the merchant, and he says, "I beg your pardon? What did you say?" At that point, the merchant starts saying, "You forgot to pay for that, sir." And the guard says, "I'm afraid I have no idea what you're talking about." The merchant looks very confused, like he didn't expect the guard to say that to him. So he says, I just saw you walk by and just pulled the apple off of my cart." The Jevin takes another bite from his apple, starts chewing.
At this point,
You're gonna go up to him. You're gonna go up to him. As you are approaching them, Jevin walks up to the merchant, gets really close to his personal space, looks right into his eyes, and says, "I'll have you know, I had gotten this apple from the barracks. You are mistaken, sir." You arrive at the scene at that point.
At this point, I put my hand on his shoulder, on Jevin's shoulder. "What do you think you're doing, God?"
And Jevin turns around and says to you, "Ah, Maximilian," he says. "No, nothing, just a misunderstanding. You should go back to your patrol." Takes another bite from the apple. The merchant doesn't say anything. He still looks very nervous.
Yeah. "Jevin, just because you're a god doesn't make this right. We're here to uphold the law. What you're doing right now is putting us all in the dirt." At this point, I'm like pushing myself between him and
And the merchant.
yeah.
Jevin looks very surprised by this challenge, and he says, "Are you saying that you would take the word of a merchant over a fellow guardsman?"
I take the word. Yeah.
He says, "I told him that this apple was from the barracks. That's all. He was mistaken. Isn't that right?" He says it. He turns to the merchant. Again, the merchant doesn't say anything.
I get up real close into his personal space. I know you, Jevon. We both know that's not right. That's not the truth.
Roll me an intimidation, which is a strength focus. Intimidation is a strength.
All right.
Gotta have a half decent
Ooh,
strength,
and he's
right?
focused on strength. I'm sorry?
It's just gotta have a half focus, decent strength, right?
Yes. Yes.
Huh? Ashley, she's using it.
Yeah. 15.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's
At
great.
this point, Jevon stops, and he squeezes the apple very tightly, as if angered, and the juice is like falling down his arm.
And at this point, I'm just clenching my teeth and just looking into his eyes.
Well then, Jevon says, and he has a little tinge of fear in his eyes. I don't want to cause any trouble. I'll humor you then. He takes out some change from his pouch and he slams it on the counter next to the merchant. There, it says.
Well then, enjoy your apple. Step back.
Jevon turns around curtly and he walks away. The merchant is beside himself. He's not really sure what he saw was real. He looks very confused. He kind of looks at you, but he doesn't say anything.
I just look back at him, giving him a quick nod, and then I step back and continue with my patrol.
As you leave,
Yeah.
you can hear him call out "thank you" to you. Meanwhile, it's Delvin.
That one.
Is it
Delvin.
Win or Lin?
Win. W-Y-N.
That one.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't want to go by Win earlier.
Yeah.
And is it Del or Doll?
Del. D-E-L.
Del. D-E-L. Del.
Delvin, you're returning back from the farm. You've got
Delvin.
you're carrying a big jug in your hands, and of a big jug of fresh milk, and you're still out in the outskirts of Redcliffe, not quite within the inner parts of the village of the city, and you hear. Roll me a perception, please. Hearing, if you're focused.
Dang it! That's keep on making me wish I could have taken hearing because that's what I really wanted, but seeing was my second wanted. Actually, they're all good.
9. You hear the faint sound of a woman's voice, and you can't make out what she's saying, but it sounds like she's in pain.
Yeah, well, I got time to kill.
You go over to
Drops the milk and walks over.
You walk over to what appears to be a mass of shrubbery, and you see a woman. She looks very frightened. She's perspiring, sweat, and you can see why. She is very pregnant, and she's breathing very heavily. Ah, dear maker! She screams in pain. And she sort of claps her mouth as if she's trying to stay quiet at the same time. But you can see that this poor woman is experiencing some horrible pain as the contractions are getting worse.
Well.
She spots you. And as she spots you and she turns to you and she says, "Please, my husband, please, you have to help me, please. Somebody's after us." And she's having a hard time talking because she looks lightheaded and she almost looks like she almost looks delusional with pain. But this woman clearly is having a baby and there's nobody else in sight.
Somebody I can get? I mean, I don't really,
She's not in pain. She roll a childbirth. What would childbirth be under?
Oh
Probably
God.
health.
Medicine. Some
Whatever
sort.
the healing, I think that would be more like whatever the healing focus would be, and that would
Cunning
be
is usually the healing
cunning is usually.
focus.
Roll me a
Yeah.
cunning, I guess.
Oh joy of joys. Oh, did my... Of course, my thing crashed. Go figure.
It's okay.
Where's my sheet? There it is. There we go. Thank you.
Did LJ disappear?
Yeah, he'll come
Okay.
back though. All right, nice. So
Smiles.
you actually know a thing or two about what it takes to deliver a baby. You haven't done it personally, but you've seen it done before, so you kind of know what needs to be done. I mean, of course, one of the first things you need to do is to help her with her breathing, among other things. But yeah, if you want to try to help this woman, you feel like you can.
Okay, so breathe very slowly.
I'm breathing. I'm breathing, she says.
I know you're breathing. Breathe less erratic.
Oh, make her! She screams. You try to help her out, and while she's panting, she tells you, we have to be quiet. My husband, he was trying to set a diversion so that they won't catch us. She says.
Ooh, names. I got nothing to go off of.
She looks into your eyes, and you feel like she's not really sure if she can trust you. And finally, I don't have much of a choice. She says, The Templars are after us. She says.
Yeah. The things I do. Okay, so probably not the best place to be right now. Who's your husband?
She says, My husband. What? Why do you need to know the name of my husband? She says.
So I know who I'm looking for.
She says, Malcolm Hawke.
Okay.
She screams.
I'm
The
gonna
baby.
go.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave you here. I'm gonna go get the farmer's wife. She'll take care of this, and I will go find Hawk. Okay.
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 The woman nods. You go over to the Mastersons. You explain to them the situation. The wife said that she will go. The husband says offers to go with, but she says no, just stay here with the son. So she goes off and she agrees to help Leandra Hawke. Meanwhile, what are you doing next?
Not staying here.
Okay.
Leaving the vicinity pretty much as quickly as I can without being too conspicuous. And if I see this Hawk along the way, then I'll get his attention. If I don't, it's no skin off my back.
Okay. So you make your way back, and are you trying to retrace your steps the way you came? Like, what are you doing? Like, describe
Pretty
to me
much,
what-
yeah.
You're tracing the steps where you came. You arrive back to where you left the woman, and as you, I'm not sure if you're going back towards the pregnant woman again, but you hear the cry of a baby. And you hear the voice of the farmer's wife saying, "It's a girl. You just delivered a girl." Leandra Hawke takes the baby and she cradles her. And at this point, there's a man who's running from the opposite direction, which you assumed to probably be her husband. The man runs up to her and says, Leandra, oh, thank goodness, he says. I was able to make the Templars go in an opposite direction. How are you? He stops when he sees the child, and he suddenly a big sigh of relief escapes from him as he takes the baby and clutches her. And Leandra says, Malcolm, it's a girl. A girl? Malcolm says, we have to... Hello there, she's beautiful. Leandra Hawk says, we shall name her Shally. Shally Hawk.
Oh.
Malcolm says, we can't stay here, Leandra. We have to go. It's not safe here. Do you keep walking, or what are you doing? If you want to, you can keep walking back to...
Walk towards them and address the husband.
You walk towards the Hawks, and Leandra spots you, and she's exhausted from giving birth to this child, and she does notice you and says, "Oh, Malcolm, look, there's the young man who helped get this fine woman help me deliver our daughter. Do you have anything to possibly pay her for her trouble?" Malcolm turns to you and he says, "You helped my wife?"
Yeah, about that. You come here a minute. I kind of need to talk to you on the down low.
"Certainly," he says. But we can't stay here very long. I don't know how long it'll take for the Templars to come back."
Right. Yeah, about that.
He comes over to you.
You want to tell me which way you sent them so that I could maybe go in the opposite direction? That'd be really great.
He tells you that he sent them east, towards the east. But he asks you, "Dear boy, do you live in Redcliffe? Are you from here?
No.
Do you know of a place where we can stay, a place where we can hide?"
Could always head south.
He says, "Is there an inn in Redcliffe?" Leandra says, "Malcolm, we can't go to an inn. That'll probably be one of the first places they'll look." Malcolm then turns to you and says, "Normally I wouldn't ask this of a random stranger, but as you can see, we don't have much of a choice. We are at our wits' end. I don't suppose we can hide out where you live, just for the night. We'll be gone by morning, before you probably even wake up."
Sure. Why not?
"Thank you so much," he says. We don't have very much, but I assure you we will compensate you the best that we can."
She
says.
probably won't even know you're there.
As the two are, as the three are getting ready to move to follow you, at the corner of your eye you spot what appears to be a figure in Templar armor. The figure is just standing there in the distance, watching you, but the person doesn't advance towards you. They're just standing at you. You look in the direction and you're shocked at what you see, because there, looking straight into your eye, is your sister in a Templar armor. Your sister looks like she's seen a ghost, like she didn't expect to see you there.
Yeah, similar expression.
What do you do? Do you do anything at that point?
Slap in the face, sibling. Templar. Sheesh.
Your sister suddenly turns. Roll another perception, Shally.
Okay.
Okay. You hear a voice call out, and you immediately recognize the voice as Liam. The voice says, "Are they over there? Have you seen them?" You hear faintly the voice of your sister. She turns and says, "No, they're not over here. They managed to escape from our view. Let's keep looking." She turns around and goes off in the opposite direction.